This code works. And the moment the business changes it, it'll fight you. AI can generate code like this all day long, but only you can judge whether it's any good. But how do you do that? Let's dive in. Hello, world. I'm David Scott Bernstein, and welcome to The Passionate Programmer. Why does so much AI generated code feel wrong, even though it runs? Let's walk through some code together. The behavior is encoded directly into conditionals in this code. Variation lives inside the function. If I want to add Apple Pay, I edit this function. If I want to change fee logic, I edit this function. Everything funnels through this one place. Let's pause and look at the shape of this code. Notice that this code describes steps, not roles. Behavior is centralized in one place. Every new requirement, then, is a risk. This isn't bad code, it's just procedural code. So why doesn't wrapping it in a class solve the problem? And I see this over and over. I go to the largest companies in the world, and when I look at the code, it's essentially just procedural code wrapped in a class statement. That is not doing OO. That is writing procedural code with an OO language. And unfortunately, you don't get much benefit from doing that. You've probably seen it too. Let's look at an example. Here's our payment processor. This is the move I see everywhere. Same logic, new syntax. We didn't really move the responsibility. We didn't create a model. We just added a class statement. It's not a map. It's not a model of what we're trying to build. It's a description. And therefore, it's brittle. It's procedural. And it's not necessarily bad. There are many things in the world that are procedural. But there are some things that require higher level models fundamentally if we want to be able to change it. And for us as software developers, I think our jobs now is directing AI to do the right thing. And that's why we're spending time looking at how do we do the right thing? What is the right thing in code? What are the virtues and qualities of good code? Because when we have that in our minds, when we have those mental models, that's when we're most effective with AI and without AI. That's when we can use the tools in Agile and DevOps and design patterns well. That's the difference between a master wielding the tools and, a beginner or somebody who's lost. It's the same tools, but some use it more effectively. And they use it more effectively because they understand the purpose of them. That's why I'm trying to go over the theories with you guys, because that's really where these ideas shine and where you make the best use of them. The cost of changing code is significantly higher, 5 times higher than the cost of building code initially. Let that sink in for a second. Understanding that economy really should be very sobering for a lot of businesses and realize that they need to invest in the quality of their code, just like they need to invest in the quality of the materials. And this becomes even more important in today's world. This does actually not go away. It becomes paramount with AI. AI does not solve this problem. AI exposes this problem. And so we have to get a handle on it. Being able to turn this around means that it's not going to just change the software industry. It's going to change every other industry that depends on software, which is every industry, right? Because if you're a manager, no matter what business you're in, and you don't have to wait a year for the next version of software that got the feature that you need, you can have it in hours, it's going to change everything, right? So let's do that. And that's why this channel is here, because you are people who are thinking about these things. And we're going to be the ones who are going to be able to help in this way. It comes from, honestly, it comes from understanding. It doesn't come from slick tricks. It comes from understanding the nature of software, understanding the nature of change. Usually that happens through experience. That's why I'm an old guy talking to you, because I didn't know this when I was young. I learned it through the school of hard knocks, like all of us do. How do we then distill that wisdom into a way that you don't have to suffer the pain that I've suffered? So that's why we're focusing on not just the mechanics of how do you do dependency injection? How do you do? We will be talking a lot about refactoring and refactoring to patterns and doing other advanced techniques. How do you do those things? The mechanics are easy. You can read them in a book, you can look them up online. It is not the challenge. The challenge for most people, and I'm talking again from a perspective of I've trained tens of thousands of developers, professional developers at the top companies around the world. And the challenge that all of us consistently face is a lack of mental models, a lack of understanding what the OO paradigm is about and why it's valuable. It's valuable to allow us to scale and independently verify the code that we're building. When we get that, when we understand how that happens in OO, things change. We start building software in a very different way. And that's what I want to share with you on this channel. That's why this channel, I think, is important. And if you agree with me, subscribe and give it a like, because that's how it will spread to other developers. Let's not all have to go through the school of hard knocks, you know? I don't want you to have to suffer the pain that I've suffered in my career in 40 years as a software developer. Let's talk about the object-oriented paradigm. And again, I want to say, it's not the right solution for everything. That's why we have multiple paradigms in software development. That's why we have procedural. That's why we have functional programming. OO lets us model behavior through interactions, not through instruction. Procedural code is great when steps are stable. OO really shines when change is in the problem, and the problem is in the process of changing. Objects are not bags of data. They're entities with agency. Let's look at an example. Here I'm using Python, but this could be Java or C# or any other object-oriented language. We're declaring a class called payment method. It's abstract and it has an abstract method called charge, which takes a reference to itself and an amount. Notice charge doesn't do anything yet. It just returns. That's okay, because we're going to override it in subclasses. And these other classes, as you can see, card payment and PayPal payment, these are subclasses. So card payment overrides the method charge and returns charge card and returns the amount. And process then calls the correct process. So let's walk through the code. Let's read it like a story. Payment service doesn't care how we charge. It only knows that something can charge. Every payment type owns its own behavior, and no one reaches inside anything else. When the behavior changes, we add. We don't rewrite. Once again, this is the open and close principle in action. Let's look at the unit test. Here we're asserting that when we pass in 100, the charge card charges $100. So then what does all this mean related to AI? Because AI will happily write procedural code forever, unless you give it a model. When you give it structure, AI starts discovering the same insights that you do. AI doesn't replace our judgment. It actually amplifies it, so we need to have good judgment. Now that we can see the difference between procedures and models, a new question appears. How do we decide where variation belongs? In types, in data, or in structure? This is what we tackle next. If this video resonated for you, then check out the whole series. Each episode in this series trains one diagnostic skill. Watch the whole playlist here. Until next time, happy coding.